welcome to Kiki Crochet. In this video tutorial we are going to learn how to crochet the sweet waffle infinity scarf. And I'm calling it a sweet waffle because, as you can see, we're using the waffle stitch for the shawl. And then once I finish crocheting the shawl, we're going to join the two corners, and then we're going to continue by working the cowl. From the cowl to the corner of the shawl, I'm not measuring the fringes in the total measurements, and the total width is 16 inches. In centimeters, if you're using centimeters, it's 77 centimeters long and 41 centimeters wide. Now for the shawl, I'm repeating throughout row 5 through row 10, okay? And the material that I'm going to use is Alize Extra, and I used 5 skeins of this yarn. Each skein is 3.53 ounces and 241 yards. And I'm going to crochet with a 4.5mm crochet hook. Now for those interested in a written pattern, I have it attached in the pinned comment under the video. It's available in Ravelry, also on Etsy. Okay, so now let's start. Now we're going to start creating our shawl, and I'm going to start by working the magic circle. If you do not know how to start with a magic circle, you can chain 4, slip stitch in the first chain to form a ring, and whatever I do in the center of my magic circle, you can do the same steps in the center of your ring. Okay, so in order to start a magic circle, okay, take the yarn and wrap it around your 2 fingers once. Now bring the yarn on the top left and hold it there. Put the hook under the right yarn, over the left one, and grab it and bring it over. Okay, take your hook and turn it around once so you're creating a loop. Take the left yarn and pull it through the loop. And by doing this, you're securing your magic circle, but you also have your first chain. Now, I'm going to work 2 more chains in order to have 3 for my first double crochet. If you started with the chain 4 ring, work 3 chains to have your first double crochet, okay? So I'm going to work 2 more chains, 1, 2. So those 3 chains are my first double crochet, and I want to work 3 more in the center of my magic circle in order to have 4. So 1, 2, 3, and 4. Now I'm going to chain 2, 1, 2, and those 2 chains from here on are going to be the center of my shawl. And I'm going to work 4 more double crochet in the center of the circle. 1, 2, 3, and 4. Grab the yarn, pull it tight so you close the whole of the magic circle. And this is how our project looks in row 1. Now we're going to start row 2, and from row 2 and every even number of rows, row 2, 4, 6, and so on, are going to be the good side, the right side of my project, and every odd number of rows are going to be my wrong side. So I'm going to start row 2 by chaining 3, 1, 2, 3, and those 3 chains are my first double crochet. Turn your work and work 2 more stitches in the first double crochet. 1, same stitch, 2. Now by doing this, I have worked a 3 double crochet increase in the first stitch. The first double crochet is a chain 3, and the other 2 that I worked in the first double crochet of the row. Now I'm going to start creating the waffle stitch, and I'm going to yarn over once, and instead of working in the double crochet, I'm going to work around it to work a front post double crochet. Okay, so put your hook from the front to the back on the right side of the stitch, and bring it out again on the left side. So we're pulling outwards the stitch. Take the yarn, pull it under the stitch, and now work your double crochet. Grab the yarn, pull through 2, grab the yarn, pull through the next 2. Now in each of the next 2 stitches I'm going to work 1 double crochet. So 1, next stitch right over here, 2. In the center of my shawl, in the chain 2 space, I am always going to be working 2 double crochet, chain 2, 2 double crochet. So 1, 2 double crochet, chain 2, and 2 more double crochet in the same chain space. Now I want to work going downwards, and I want to work the same steps that I did on the right side, but as I want to do the same steps as if I'm starting from here going downwards. So I want to work 1 double crochet in each of the next 2 stitches. 1, next stitch 2. Now in the next stitch right over here, again we're going to work around it to work 1 front post double crochet. So put your hook from the front to the back on the right side of the stitch, take it out to the front again on the left side, and work your front post double crochet. Now we're left with the last stitch of the row, which is not visible at all. So make sure you always crochet in the last stitch, which is hiding back here, and it's the 3 chains that we start every new row. Those 3 chains are always going to be the last stitch of the row, and if you're afraid you're going to lose that stitch, please put a stitch marker in the 3rd chain once you work it, okay? So I want to put my hook in the 3rd chain, counting from the bottom to the top on the peak over here, and I want to work 3 double crochet in the same stitch. 1, 2, and 3. So this is the end of row 2, and now we're going to start row 3. Okay, so now we're going to start row 3, which is the wrong side of our project. So always start with a chain 3, always turn your work, and always work 2 more double crochet in the first stitch. 1, 2. So by doing this we have 3 double crochet in the first stitch of the row. Now I'm going to continue by working 1 front post double crochet in each of the next 2 stitches, and 1 double crochet in the 3rd, and I'm going to repeat that step twice. So the next stitch, this one right here, will be a front post double crochet, one front post double crochet around the 2nd stitch, and in the 3rd stitch work 1 double crochet on top of the double crochet. So what we are really doing in the wrong side is on every stitch that we worked a double crochet in the good side, in the right side, we're working a front post double crochet, and for every stitch that we worked a front post double crochet on the right side, on the wrong side we're crocheting a regular double crochet. So let's repeat that step one more time. 1 front post double crochet around the next 2 stitches, 1 next stitch, 2. On the 3rd stitch work 1 double crochet, and on the stitch right before the center, this one over here, work 1 front post double crochet. Now in the chain 2 space in the center of our shawl we always work 2 double crochet, 1 2, chain 2, and 2 more double crochet under the same chain space. Now I want to work going downwards, and I want to follow the same exact steps that I did on this side of the shawl. So in the first stitch after the chain space, I'm going to work 1 front post double crochet, okay, and now I'm going to work 1 double crochet in the next stitch and 1 front post double crochet around the next 2 stitches, and I'm going to repeat that step twice. So 1 double crochet in the next stitch, 1 front post double crochet around the next 2, 1, 2, and let's repeat those steps one more time. 1 double crochet in the next stitch, 1 front post double crochet around the next 2, and on the last stitch, which is the chain 3, we're going to work 3 double crochet. So 1 front post double crochet in the next stitch, 1 front post around the next stitch as well, and on the last stitch right here in the peak, work 3 double crochet in the same stitch. 1, 2, and 3. Okay, so this is the end of row number 3. It's the wrong side. Now let's see how we're going to start row number 4. Let's start row 4, which is the right side of our project, and always start with a chain 3. Always turn your work and start crocheting from the first double crochet and work 2 more stitches. 1, same stitch, 2. So we have 3 double crochet in the same stitch to start with. Now I'm going to work 1 double crochet in the next stitch, and starting from the next stitch, and I'm going to repeat this step a total of 3 times, I'm going to work 1 front post double crochet around the next stitch, 1 double crochet in the next 2. So the next stitch is this one, 1 front post double crochet around the next stitch, 1 double crochet in the next 2, 1, next stitch, 2. So let's repeat this step for a second time. 1 double crochet around the next stitch, 1 double crochet in the next 2, 1, 2. Okay, so let's repeat this step for a third time. 1 double crochet around the next stitch, 1 front post double crochet, okay, and 1 double crochet in the next 2, 1, next stitch, 2. In the stitch before the center, I'm going to work 1 front post double crochet. In the center of my shawl, again, I'm going to work 2 double crochet, 1, 2, chain 2, and 2 more double crochet under the same chain space. 1, 2. So now we're going to start working downwards, and I want to do the same exact steps as I did on the right side of my shawl. So around the first stitch, I'm going to work 1 front post double crochet and 1 double crochet in the next 2, and I'm going to repeat that step a total of 3 times. So 1 front post double crochet around the first stitch, 1 double crochet in the next 2, 1, next stitch, 2. So repeating for a second time, 1 front post, double crochet around the next stitch, 1 double crochet in the next 2, 1, 2, and for a third and last time, 1 front post, double crochet around the next stitch, 1 double crochet in the next 2, 1, next stitch, 2. Okay, and we're going to finish the row by working 1 front post, double crochet around the next stitch, 1 double crochet in the second before last stitch. Okay, and in the last stitch of the row, again we're going to work 3 double crochet in the same stitch, in the last stitch, which is the third chain counting from the bottom to the top. So 1, 2, and 3. So this is how our work looks in the end of row 4. It has started to look as a triangle. Okay, now we're going to start row 5, which is the wrong side of our project and the first row of repetitions. Now we're going to start row 5, which is the wrong side, and it's the first row of repetitions. Now please, in order to avoid coming over and over again in the same spot of the video, okay, to repeat rows 5 to 10, write down on your notes the steps that you're doing. Or if you purchase a pattern, everything's written out thoroughly in the same exact way as I'm mentioning throughout the video. Okay, so let's start by chaining 3. 1, 2, 3, and turn your work. Work 2 more double crochet in the first stitch. 1, 2. So we have our 3 double crochet in the first stitch of the row, in the first stitch, yes. And now I'm going to repeat a total of 5 times those steps. 1 double crochet in the next stitch, 1 front post, double crochet around the next 2, and I'm repeating that step a total of 5 times. So 1 double crochet in the next stitch, 1 front post around the next 2, 1 and 2. So repeat that step 4 more times. 1 double crochet, 2 front post, 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 which are the last 2 stitches before the chain 2 space. Once I reach this spot, I'm going to turn my video back on. I have completed crocheting going upwards. Now in the chain 2 space, always work 2 double crochet, 1, 2, chain 2, and 2 more double crochet under the same chain space, 1 and 2. Now going downwards, I'm going to repeat those steps a total of 5 times again. 1 front post, double crochet around the next 2 stitches, 1 double crochet in the third, okay, and repeating that step 5 times. So 1 front post around the next 2, 1, 2, 1 double crochet in the third one. Repeat that step 4 more times, okay, so the second before the last stitch is going to be your double crochet, and in the last stitch of the row, which is the chain 3, we're going to work 3 double crochet in the same stitch. Once I finish row 5, I'm going to turn my video back on to start row 6. I've completed row 5. Now we're going to start row 6, which is going to be the good side of the shawl and the second row of repetitions. So always chain 3, turn the work, and work 2 more double crochet in the first stitch. Now in this row, I'm gonna work 1 double crochet in each of the next 2 stitches and 1 front post double crochet around the third, and I'm repeating this step a total of 6 times. So 1 double crochet in each of the next 2, 1, next stitch 2, and on the third stitch we're gonna work 1 front post double crochet. So we did the first repetition together, work 5 more repetitions, and before I reach in the chain 2, I'm going to turn my video back on. So I have worked my repetitions, okay, a total of 6 times the steps that we did. The 1 repetition we did it together, 5 repetitions off camera. Now right before the chain 2 space, I have 1 double crochet left, in which I'm going to work 1 double crochet. Oops. Now in the chain 2 space, as always, we're working 2 double crochet, 1, 2, chain 2, and 2 more double crochet under the same chain space, 1, 2. Now we want to work the same exact steps going downwards. So in the first stitch I'm going to work 1 double crochet, and the following stitches that I'm going to work, we need a total of 6 repetitions. So 1 front post double crochet around the next stitch, 1 double crochet in the next 2, and we need a total of 6 repetitions, okay? So 1 double crochet, 1 front post double crochet around the next stitch, 1 double crochet in the next 2, 1, 2. So we did the first repetition together, work 5 more off camera, where the last repetition is going to fall right here on the last stitches. So you're only going to be left with the last stitch of the row, this chain 3, in which we're going to work 3 double crochet in the last stitch. I have completed row 6. Now we're going to start row 7, which is the wrong side of my project and the third row of repetitions. So chain 3, 1, 2, 3, turn your work, work your 2 more double crochet in the first stitch, okay, work 1 double crochet in the next stitch, and now for a total of 7 times we're going to repeat the steps. 1 double crochet in the next stitch, 1 front post double crochet around the next 2. So 1 double crochet in the next stitch, 1 front post around the next 2. So 1 and 2. We did the first repetition together, work the other 6 off camera, and once you have finished the 7th repetition, you will have 1 double crochet left before the chain 2 space. I have completed working my 7 repetitions going upwards, and as I mentioned before the video, before I turned off the video, I have 1 stitch left in which I'm going to work 1 double crochet. In the chain 2 space, always work 2 double crochet, chain 2 and 2 double crochet, 1, 2 and 2 double crochet, and now going downwards we're going to follow we're going to work the following steps. So I'm going to work 1 double crochet in the next stitch, 1 front post double crochet around the next 2, 1 next stitch, 2. So I did the first repetition. Now I need 6 more to have 7 in total. Once I finish the 7th repetition, I'm going to have 3 stitches left in the end, which we're going to work together. I finished repeating the steps a total of 7 times, And as I mentioned, I'm left with 3 stitches in the end. I'm going to work 1 double crochet in each of the next 2. 1, next stitch, 2, and in the last stitch always work your 3 double crochet increase. 1, same stitch, 2, same stitch, 3. So we have completed row 7. Now we're going to start row 8, which is the right side of our project, and the 4th row of repetitions. I have completed row 7. Now we're going to start row 8, which is going to be our right side of the project, and this is the 4th row of repetitions. Now I need your attention, and I'm going to explain later why. Going from row 7 to row 8, the number that we are going to repeat the steps increases by 2. So in row 7 we did the steps and repeated a total of 7 times. In row 8 we are going to repeat the steps 9 times. Okay, from row 7 to row 8 the repetitions increase by 2 instead of 1 that were all the other previous rows. Okay, and I'm going to explain in the end why this happens. Okay, so start with chain 3 as we always do. Turn your work and do 2 more double crochet in the first stitch. So we have 3 to start with. Okay, now the following steps that I'm going to explain, we are going to repeat a total of 9 times. 1 front post double crochet in the next stitch, 1 double crochet in each of the next 2. So this is the next stitch, 1 front post double crochet around it, and 1 double crochet in the next 2. 1 and 2. So we did the first repetition together. Repeat those steps 8 more times. So 1 front post, 2 double crochet, 1 front post, 2 double crochet. Repeat those steps 8 more times, and when you finish repeating those steps for the 9th time, the last stitch will fall in the last stitch before the chain 2 space. I worked all of my 9 repetitions. Now in the chain 2 space we always work 2 double crochet, chain 2, and 2 more double crochet under the same chain space. Okay, now we want to go downwards and we want to work the same exact steps. So I'm going to work 1 double crochet in each of the next 2, and in the 3rd stitch I'm going to work a front post double crochet, and we're going to repeat that step 9 times. So 1 double crochet in the next 2 stitches, 1, 2, 1 front post double crochet around the 3rd. So this was the first repetition that we worked together. Work 8 more off camera. Your last repetition, your last front post double crochet is going to fall right here on the 2nd before the last stitch. And in the last stitch of the row, as always, we're going to work 3 double crochet in the same stitch. I've completed row 8. Now we're going to start row 9, which is the wrong side of our project. And as always, we chain 3, turn the work, work 2 more double crochet in the first stitch, 1 and 2. Now in this row, the steps that we're going to repeat a total of 10 times are 1 front post double crochet in the next 2 stitches, 1 double crochet in the 3rd. Okay, so this is the next stitch. Work 1 front post double crochet in the next stitch, 1 front post double crochet around the 2nd stitch, 1 double crochet in the 3rd one. So this was the first repetition. I want to do these steps 9 more times. 2 front post, 1 double crochet, 2 front post, 1 double crochet. Once you finish all of the 10 repetitions, you're going to have 1 double crochet left before the chain 2 space. I've worked all of my 10 repetitions, and as I mentioned before I turned the video off, I have 1 stitch left in which I'm going to work 1 front post double crochet around it. Now in the chain 2 space, as always, we work 2 double crochet, chain 2, and 2 more double crochet under the same chain space. Now we want to work the same steps going downwards. So around the first stitch, I'm going to work 1 front post double crochet. And the steps that I'm going to mention now, we're going to repeat a total of 10 times. I'm going to work 1 double crochet in the next stitch, 1 front post double crochet around the next 2, 1, next stitch, 2. So repeat those 3 stitches 9 more times. 1 double crochet, 2 front post, 1 double crochet, 2 front post, and once you finish all of your 10 repetitions, the last stitch will fall right here in the second before the last stitch, and you're going to have left only the last double crochet of the row, in which we always work 3 double crochet in the last stitch. I have completed row 9. Now we're going to start row 10, which is the 6th and last row of repetitions for this pattern. Okay, so chain 3, 1, 2, 3, turn the work, work 2 more double crochet in the first stitch. Okay, now I'm going to work 1 double crochet in the next stitch, and the steps that I'm going to mention now, we're going to repeat a total of 11 times. I'm going to work 1 front post double crochet around the next stitch, 1 front post, okay, and 1 double crochet in each of the next 2, 1, 2. I'm going to repeat those 3 stitches 10 more times. 1 front post, 2 double crochet, 1 front post, 2 double crochet. Once you repeat all 11 times in total, you're going to have this last stitch before the chain 2 space left over. Once I reach this point, I'm going to turn my video back on. I've worked my 11 repetitions. And as I mentioned before I turn my video off, I have 1 stitch left in which I'm going to work 1 front post double crochet, now in the chain 2 space we're going to work 2 double crochet, chain 2, and 2 more double crochet around under the same chain 2 space. Now I'm going to start working going downwards, and I'm going to start with 1 front post double crochet around the first stitch, 1 double crochet in the next 2 stitches, 1 and 2. This was the first repetition, 1 front post, 2 double crochet. Work the same steps 10 more times, so we have 11 times we repeat this step. Okay, so 1 front post, 2 double crochet, 1 front post, 2 double crochet. Once you finish all 11 repetitions, you're going to be left with the last 3 stitches of the row, which we're going to work together. I have worked all of my 11 repetitions, and as I mentioned before I turned my video off, I am left with 3 stitches. So in the next stitch, I'm going to work 1 front post double crochet, 1 double crochet in the next one, and in the last stitch of the row, as always, I'm going to work 3 double crochet in the same stitch. 1, 2, and 3. And this is how our shawl looks like at this point. Look what a beautiful result the waffle stitch gives to our project. Now, we've worked row 10, which was the last row of repetitions. Now we're going to go back and we're going to start repeating the same steps. Now from here on, we're going to work off camera. So after row 10, we're going to go back and repeat all over again the rows 5 through row 10. Now, what I want you to be aware of, and I want you to be careful, is that every time that you go from row 10 back to row 5, the number that you repeat your stitches increases by 2. So in row 10, we repeated the steps 11 times. When you go to row 11, where you're going to repeat the steps of row 5, you're going to repeat the steps a total of 13 times and not 12. Okay, 13 times. When you go to row 12, which is the repetitions of row 6, you're going to repeat the steps 14 times. When you go to row 12, where you're going to repeat the steps of row 7, you're going to repeat the steps 15 times. But when you go to row 11, when you go to row 14, where you're going to go back on repeating the steps of row 8, the number of repetitions will increase by 2 again. So if I have 13 times the repetitions, 14 times, 15 times, in row 14, we're going to repeat the steps 2 extra times as we did in the previous row, which is going to be 17 times. Okay, so every time that you go from row 5, every time that you take your repetitions from row 5 to row 6, the repetitions increase by 1. From row 6 to row 7, they increase by 1. From row 7 to row 8, your repetitions increase by 2. From row 8 to row 9, your repetitions increase by 1. From row 9 to row 10, your repetitions increase by 1. And from row 10 going back to row 5, your repetitions increase by 2. So, if you're afraid that you're going to make a mistake by counting how many times you repeat the steps, what is very important as you repeat rows 5 through row 10 are 4 spots that I want you to be careful and work the same exact steps. I want you to be aware how you work the beginning of the row, before the chain 2 space, after the chain 2 space, and down here the end of the row. These are the 4 spots that I want you to work in the same exact way as we did in rows 5 through row 10. Okay, as you go through your project. Now, once I finish crocheting the shawl part of my project, I'm going to turn my video on. I'm going to mention the width from the one side to the other. I'm going to mention how many rows I have worked in total. And then we're going to see how to close the shawl to make it into an infinity scarf. I have completed crocheting the shawl part of my infinity scarf. And look what a beautiful and warm result the waffle stitch gives to the project. Now, I have worked a total of 31 rows, and if you're afraid that you're going to lose the count, you're going to make a mistake in the row count, what I want you to do is to count each square of the waffle. Each square of the waffle is a total of 2 rows, so 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 20, 22, 24, 26, 28, 28, 30, and the last row that's here by itself, 31. Okay? So what we're going to do now is we're going to join the 2 corners, and we're going to start working the infinity scarf. And the total width from the one corner to the other over here is at 85 centimeters. Okay? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn my work, and I'm going to be looking at the wrong side. Okay, I'm going to fold together the two corners. Right here, and I'm going to join, and I'm going to work all around then. So let me zoom in so you can see easier the steps that we're going to be working. Oops, that's too much. Okay, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the one side and join it with the other. So put your hook in this, under this first, in this first double crochet over here. So count the third chain from the bottom going to the top, and work your slip stitch. Okay, now we're going to be working 2 double crochet under every double crochet. So I'm going to chain 2 instead of 3, and still the 2 chains count as my first double crochet. Yarn over once, put your hook under the first double crochet and work 2 double crochet. 1, 2. Then go under the next double crochet right over here, and again work 2 double crochet. 1, 2. So what we are really doing, we're working 2 stitches under the first double crochet of every row. So this is the next row, this is the next row, the next row, and so on. Okay, so put your hook under the next double crochet and work 2 stitches. 1, 2. Next double crochet, put your hook under it and work 2 double crochet. 1, 2, and keep working 2 stitches under every stitch. Okay, all around. Once you reach the center of your magic circle right over here, you're going to work 1 double crochet, and then again keep working 2 double crochet under every stitch all around up until you reach the last row, the last double crochet over here. I'm going to work my last 2 double crochet, and then I'm going to turn my video back on to work the slip stitch and start the next row. I have completed crocheting all around, and I have a total of 126 double crochet. Okay, and one of those 126 stitches is the 2 chains that I started my row with, because this counts as a stitch. Okay, now we're going to close the row, and I'm going to show you a little trick in order to avoid having the seam to be very visible. Okay, what I want you to do is remove your crochet hook from the loop, put your hook from the back to the front under the chain 2, so I'm putting my hook right into this space over here. Okay, under this chain 2, I'm going to take the loop and I'm going to grab it into my crochet hook, and without tightening the loop too much, grab the loop, pull it backwards, and now I have my yarn on the left and my crochet hook on the right. Grab the yarn, chain 1, chain 2. Okay, now we're going to start row 2. So every time we're going to be slip stitching this way, always chain 2 and always turn your work to crochet into the other way. Okay, because from here on we're going to work off camera, so all the steps are going to be exactly the same. And we are always going to be start crocheting from the first double crochet of the row. 1, next stitch, 2, next one, 3, 4, 5, and keep crocheting all around for 126 stitches, where your last double crochet will be this one over here. Once I finish, I'm going to turn my video back on to see how to work the slip stitch on this row as well, and then we're going to work off camera. I have completed crocheting all around, and now again we're going to close the row with the same trick that I showed you earlier. So we want to put our hook under the chain 2 space from the back to the front. Take the loop, grab it with your crochet hook, okay, and without tightening the loop too much, take it under the chain 2, and now have the yarn on the left and the crochet hook on the right. Chain 1, chain 2, and now we're ready to start the next row. So see how it looks? It looks kind of better by just working a slip stitch in the chains. But again, if you prefer stitching in the chains, you can go ahead and do so. Okay, so always chain 2, always turn the work. Okay, and always start crocheting from the first double crochet of the row. Now, if you prefer to make another stitch for the cowl, for the infinity scarf part, you can go ahead and do so. Please do not use the waffle stitch because the infinity scarf is not going to fall, it's not going to be loose to fall down in the front to have a nice result first. And second, you're going to use a lot of yarn if you work the waffle stitch for the infinity scarf part, okay? You're going to use about twice as much of the yarn as you will need from crocheting plain double crochet. But if you prefer another stitch for the cowl part, you can go ahead and use it. So once I finish working my rows for the cowl, I'm going to turn my video back on. I'm going to mention how long it is, how many rows I've worked, and then in the end we're going to see how to attach the fringes. I have completed crocheting my waffle infinity scarf so far, and this is how it looks from the bottom. Going to the top, it's all plain double crochet for the cowl. Now I have worked a total of 32 rows for the cowl, and just measuring this part over here is 34 centimeters. Now what we're going to do is we're going to finish off by working a couple of rows with the rib stitch. And after my last slip stitch, I have chained my 2 and I have turned my work. Okay. So let's start the last rows with the rib stitch. So the rib stitch is 1 front post double crochet and 1 back post double crochet. So put your hook around the first stitch, put it from the front to the back on the right side, to the front again on the left side, and work a double crochet. The next stitch will be a back post double crochet. So put your hook from the back to the front on the right side, to the back again on the left side, so you're pulling backwards, and work your double crochet. So keep working 1 front post and 1 back post double crochet, 1 front post double crochet around the next one, 1 back post double crochet around the next stitch. Okay, and keep working all around up until the last stitch, which is either going to be a front post or a back post double crochet. Once I reach the end, I'm going to turn my video back on. I have completed crocheting all around with 1 front post and 1 back post. The last stitch of my row is a front post double crochet. So put your hook in the second chain, counting from the bottom to the top, work your slip stitch, chain 2, and start a second row with the same steps with the rib stitch. Okay, so since my first stitch right here was a front post, I'm going to keep working front post double crochet. The second stitch is a back post, but because I can't see this stitch too good, okay, I'm just opening up the stitches with my fingers and work a back post double crochet. The next stitch is a front post, so I'm going to keep working a front post double crochet in this row as well. The next stitch is a back post, so open up the stitch and work a back post double crochet. So keep working one front post, one back post all around. The last stitch is a front post double crochet. Once I finish, I'm going to turn my video back on. I've completed my second row of the rib stitch all around. Now again work a slip stitch in the second chain, counting from the bottom to the top, chain 2, and we're going to work the last row of the rib stitch, where again the first stitch is going to be a front post double crochet. Second stitch, again they're not visible, so open up the stitch so you can see where you're going to put your hook into. Okay, pull backwards the second stitch to work a back post double crochet. So keep working one front post, one back post all around, where the last stitch is going to be a front post. Once I finish, I'm going to turn my video back on to see how to attach the fringes. I've completed the last row of the rib stitch. Okay, again work a slip stitch in the second chain, counting from the bottom to the top, chain 1, cut the yarn and fasten off. Okay, now we have to weave in all of the ends, so our infinity scarf is completed, and now we're going to see how to attach the fringes on our project. Now that we have completed, let's see how we're going to adjust our fringes. Okay, what I'm using is I'm using 3 strings of yarn. You can use 2 depending on how rich you want your fringes to be. And the length of my fringe is 18 centimeters long. Okay, now what helps me when I attach my fringes is to have my work like this. Okay, the point looking up. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to start attaching the fringes right here in the chain 2 space, which was the corner of my shawl. And then I'm going to start attaching, I'm going to keep attaching the fringes in the front post double crochet. You can see the stitches from the waffle. Okay, so the next stitch is going to fall here, the fringe. This stitch right here, 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 and so on. Okay, so at the spot where I have worked the front post, this is where I'm going to attach the fringes. Okay, so take your 3 pieces of yarn and fold them in half. Okay, now put your hook in the chain 2 space, grab the loop and pull it through the stitch. Now you have a loop on your hook and 6 pieces of yarn now, because we have folded them in half, and take them through the loop. Okay, and tighten up. So this is how your fringes are going to look like. Now I'm going to keep attaching fringes all the way to the back over here where the shawl finishes. Okay, we want to attach fringes all the way in the back this way. The infinity scarf will look nice and cozy, and with the fringes it will give a nice finishing result. So once I finish attaching my fringes, I'm going to turn my video back on. I have completed my sweet waffle infinity scarf, and this is how it looks completed. Look how beautiful it looks when we attach the fringes. And in the back, this is how it looks when I have attached all the fringes up until the end of the row. This is the back of my project. Okay, so thanks for watching. Please subscribe, and if you like the video, please press like, leave a comment, and share it with your friends so they can see how to crochet this beautiful infinity scarf. Thanks again. Bye bye.